Tom Hanks may be America's dad, but it's a different story with his own family.
Chet Hanks has been out of control for years, making racial slurs, trashing hotel rooms, and getting a restraining order against him. But is Tom responsible for Chet's downward spiral? Tom sent him away to an abusive juvenile camp to keep him out of the spotlight, and it ruined Chet.
I had like a mental break. I had become broken.
Tom tried to hide Chet away, but he couldn't erase his own past. We did some digging and found out that Tom's own ex-wife filed a restraining order against him. Today, we'll uncover the truth behind Tom Hanks's dark past and how Chet became Tom's biggest mistake. This is the real life story behind the tabloids.
I couldn't be a worse father, and I couldn't be a worse human being. I had cursed innocent beings with my own failing.
Before he blew up and became the Tom Hanks everyone loves, he blamed himself for breaking up his family.
I felt in the course of being their divorced single guy dad that I was burning them with cares that they didn't deserve to have to carry.
So when he had his son Chet 3 years later, he had a second shot.
He's got a hood affectation to the way he speaks, even though he grew up in Beverly Hills.
Big up the whole island. But go listen now, be sure. If you're in danger, stay your ass inside.
He's in the news right now for saying the N-word.
Hanks must be so annoyed. What a
Tom Hanks is like America's dad, right? I'm curious, how did Chet Hanks end up like that?
That's a great question. First, let's take a look at Tom's childhood, which may surprise a lot of people.
Your dad and your mom divorced when you were 5.
My dad got a raw deal. He happened to witness the murder of his father in a fight. It ruined him.
So Tom Hanks's grandfather was murdered?
Yeah, exactly.
When you look at Tom Hanks, you really don't think his family would have such a dark past.
So Tom's upbringing made him determined to have a stable family.
When I met my wife, Rita, I had never been part of a full-time large structure of a family. I immediately felt comfortable. You just try to be a guy who drives the carpool and picks him up after school.
See, that's the Tom Hanks I know. I know he's a celebrity, but he seems down to earth.
But for Chet, the pressure of living up to the image of a seemingly perfect father was too much to bear.
I was just the son of somebody famous, so I hadn't even done anything to deserve any sort of recognition. And that created a lot of contempt. I was deeply insecure and ashamed of my upbringing.
When Chet was a teenager, he started rebelling. Tom tried to step in and get him back on track.
I was grounded, and I just about had enough of it. And I got up to go out anyway. And as I was walking out the door, my dad turned to me and he said, "Chet, if you walk out that door, your entire life is going to change."
And it did. Instead of letting Chet learn from his own mistakes, Tom sent him to a wilderness camp for 15 months.
In the abuse and torment of teens in private boot camps that claim to fix behavioral problems with tough love.
They put me in the back of a truck. They tell me to take my bandana out and blindfold myself. And they proceed to drive me into the middle of nowhere, the high desert of southern Utah. You are not allowed to speak to anybody, and nobody is allowed to speak to you. Making fires from rubbing sticks together. That's what we have to do every day if we want to earn the privilege of eating hot food.
Tom thought he was doing the right thing. He had limited contact with Chet, so he wasn't aware of how awful it was getting.
It was like psychological torture. They wouldn't tell you when you're leaving until the moment before. So you're constantly waiting for that moment. Well, after 15 weeks, I finally feel like that moment's gonna happen for me. They approach me and they say, "Hey, we got good news, Chet." And they go, "You earned a phone call with your parents." And I just completely, pretty much disintegrated. I had like a mental break. I had become broken.
When Chet was finally released, he was spiraling out of control.
They're making me out to be like the fuck up like son of Tom Hanks, and then I just like bought into that.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck it. If I'm gonna be the fuck up son, then I'm gonna be the biggest, like the biggest one of them all.
I was selling coke, doing coke until I couldn't even snort up my nose anymore.
He caused £1,000 worth of damage after trashing a London hotel room.
And Tom's relationship with Chet had never been more strained.
I wasn't even on speaking terms with them. Like our relationship had gotten so bad.
Tom must have felt like he failed his son. But this wasn't the first time he had failed his family. During Tom's first divorce, His ex-wife, Samantha Lewis, filed a restraining order against him.
She claimed, "My husband has repeatedly verbally abused and humiliated me during the past 90 days in my home. This caused me to suffer great emotional distress."
Tom Hanks having a restraining order against him, that really does not line up with the America's Dad image he has.
Tom denied the accusation, but it was clearly a bitter fight.
Well, I felt like I was a complete abject total failure, and everything I thought was working was actually not working.
To avoid repeating the same mistakes and losing his second family, Tom had to remind himself what he learned from his divorce.
It's a place that everybody comes to in their life for one reason or another. And you work through that till you figure out that, number one, you have been an idiot, but number two, you're no longer an idiot. And this will pass. You just got to have a little bit of faith in the goodness that is inside yourself.
And this was a lesson Chet had to learn as well.
There's like a point you get where you're just like, this is like not the life I was meant to live. Like, what am I doing? And I was at that point when I found out I was having a kid.
That you had a baby. Was that sort of what all of a sudden made you wake up?
That's pretty much single-handedly what it was.
Tom couldn't control his son's life decisions, but as Chet tried to get sober for his daughter, Tom had to decide whether or not to support him.
As a parent, you love your kids unconditionally, and you support them in every step of the way, and you got to applaud bravery and honesty when it comes out of your own house.
And they couldn't be more supportive. Every step of the way, you know what I mean? They've always been there for me, and I'm really lucky.
Chet hasn't exactly grown up to be the perfect son, but he has shown up for his daughter and stayed sober. He realized he can't control people's expectations of him.
Do you want to be Tom Hanks? All I want to be is me.
And Tom finally realized he had to let Chet be himself and make his own mistakes.
He said, "I figured out the only thing a parent can do is say, 'I love you.' There's nothing you can do wrong. You cannot hurt my feelings. I hope you will forgive me on occasion, and what do you need me to do?"
If you truly love someone, give them the freedom to make their own mistakes. If you give them the space to make mistakes, you'll also give them the space to grow.
I love my parents like so much. They're just great people, you know what I'm saying? And I'm extremely blessed.
A man is blessed. A man is blessed with a family sitting down front like that. I can't tell you how much your love means to me.